Hey everyone, and welcome to the Rules of Thumb podcast with Dr. G. I'm your host, Nick Golinvaux, and I write a weekly newsletter on all things musculoskeletal health and longevity. That means fewer aches and pains, and a better knowledge of what to actually do when they inevitably rear their ugly head. In this podcast, I will read to you my article of the week so that you can listen to it on the go. If video is more your thing, welcome to those of you watching on YouTube. So without further ado, let's get into this week's article titled, Are Lovable Dangerous Pets? An Exploration of Cat and Dog Injuries. Because most people have such a strong opinion on this topic, it's possible this article will end up being entirely useless. But I do actually feel fairly qualified to weigh in. After years and years of seeing hundreds, or maybe even thousands, of injuries caused by animals, just in case you find yourself deciding between the two, let's talk about whether you should get a dog or a cat. Based on the injuries they are likely to cause you, of course. So the spectrum of injuries. The number of injuries I see from either household dogs or cats honestly astounds me. Quite frankly, it's been one of the most surprising things about a career in orthopedics. With all these injuries either coming into my clinic or ones I'm called about from the ER, you would think we collectively have a bunch of wild animals running through our yards and living in our homes. Maybe we do. Anyways, the injuries from household pets typically fall into one of two categories, the bites and all the rest. I'm not going to get into more medical type issues like allergies, ticks, etc., just orthopedic injuries today. P.S. I do love pets, despite how this article may feel. Let's start with the bites. These can be truly awful or just minor annoyances. Or minor annoyances that turn into a big deal a week later, i.e. when they get infected. Beginning with dogs, I don't know about you, but my preconceived notions told me that dog bites would be the worst offenders of all. Maybe it's because you hear the horror stories, or because most dogs are just bigger than most cats. And trust me, there are some awful dog bites out there. In contrast to cats, dogs are the only household pets that can maul faces, bite off appendages. In fact, I once reattached a child's thumb after the thumb had been rescued from the dog's stomach. We literally had to soak off the stomach acid. Or remove large swaths of tissue. When they're bad, they're the worst. But let's take the standard dog bite, the one where they are fighting another dog, and you try to separate them, so then the dog accidentally bites your hand and arm in response. By the way, I can almost recite this story verbatim when these patients come in. This situation happens all the time. If you're in this situation at a dog park or elsewhere, please use your feet to separate the dogs, not your hands. Okay, that's my soapbox. Back to my point. In these injuries, patients will typically get 3 or 4 smallish bites. These will certainly bleed a fair bit, and they often prompt a trip to the ER. But you know what's nice about those bites? Dog teeth are relatively blunt. Of course, they're sharp enough to do the damage, but they're relatively blunt, meaning that they tear your tissue rather than puncture it. And while this may sound bad, it's usually good because the wounds that they leave behind are broad-based and remain open by nature. And that means that all that nasty bacteria in their mouths actually has a way to escape. This is why dog bites almost never get infected. While the tissue damage they cause can certainly be severe, it is rare for me to have to surgically intervene to relieve a dog bite infection. Can you imagine recovering from the trauma of a dog bite on top of a subsequent infection? It's terrible. But I could probably count on one hand the number of times that I've had to do that. Now for the cats. As you may be able to tell from the leading way in which I'm writing this, cat bites are a whole different ballgame. Yes, it would be rare to be mauled by a cat. They rarely attack faces. They don't bite off thumbs. All great, of course. But they do bite, and they bite a lot. Heck, I've treated one patient for 4 different cat bites this year from the same cat. And the anatomy of their teeth is a setup for disaster. You see, in contrast to dogs with their relatively blunt teeth that tear tissue, cats have long, skinny, razor-sharp teeth. These long, skinny daggers take nasty cat mouth bacteria and drive them deep into your tissue. But because the entrance hole is so skinny, the body easily closes up the skin layer over the top, trapping that bacteria deep down inside with no way out. Let the festering begin. Unlike dog bites, cat bites get infected all the time. These frequently land patients in the hospital on IV antibiotics and on my operating room table for surgical cleanup of the infection. Not to mention that those sharp teeth cut tendons, ligaments, and just about everything else they contact. It all gets very complicated very fast, meaning, how do you repair a cut tendon that's bathing in cat bite infection? This whole scenario definitely ranks among my least favorite phone calls to receive from the emergency room docs. All right, now for all the rest. While the bites are the primary offender here with household animals, at least in terms of what I see walk into my office or the emergency room, there's one more surprise I've encountered in my career. At some point, I really should go tally up the numbers, because this next activity might actually outrank mountain bikes, scooters, skateboards, skis, or even dirt bikes as the most dangerous thing you can possibly participate in. The mother of all extreme sports. Walking your dog. Probability-wise, maybe not, but sheer volume, I'd put money down right now that it takes the cake. My clinic is a constant stream of these scenarios. My dog saw another dog and pulled me to the ground. Boom, broken wrist, surgery. My dog saw another dog and the leash was wrapped around my finger. Boom, dislocated finger, surgery. My dog ran in front of me and I tripped over the leash. Boom, broken leg, surgery. I was walking my dog in the wintertime and I slipped on ice. Boom, broken elbow, surgery. My dog was tied to my stroller and I lurched to save the stroller, but my thumb got caught. Boom, torn thumb ligament, surgery. I'm telling you, I wasn't prepared for this. It's wild. And I'm sorry to all the dog lovers out there, myself included. I have yet to hear one single comparable story from our cat lovers. Nobody sustains these mechanical injuries from their cat. The closest I've had are a couple of, yeah, I tripped over my cat on the stairs stories. Those certainly do exist. So what to do? I don't know that there's a true way to weigh all of these potential downsides against one another. Initially, I would have said that the severity of cat bites far outweighs anything else. Those infections are nasty and they're frequent. Definitely not to be messed with. But I will say that the race appears fairly neck and neck to me. The sheer number of injuries I see from folks walking their dogs is just too large for me to ignore. So while we are all prone to ignore the facts and think, oh, that would never happen to me, my goal today is to help you think about the downside of owning those lovable fur balls that we all let into our homes. And who knows, maybe with a small adjustment, you can save yourself a trip to the ER. I do already know that one of my readers recently used his foot, rather than his hand, to break up a dog fight after I mentioned this tip in a previous article. Go ahead and cross that $80,000 hospital bill off the list. So takeaways. Cat bite injuries appear less severe but have worse outcomes compared to dog bite injuries, primarily due to the risk of infection. The sheer number of injuries I see from people walking their dogs is astounding. Please be careful out there. And while each is lovable, owning either a cat or a dog can result in some serious injuries that you will want to know about before choosing between the two for a new pet. I'll definitely chalk this topic up as one I never thought I'd be an expert in, but here we are. Life is a funny journey. As always, I hope this helps you understand your musculoskeletal health better so you can make the decisions that feel right for you. Thanks for listening. See you next time.